Hello and welcome back to Logan Sounds Off. Today on my podcast, I'm going to be reviewing Hunky Dory by David Bowie, the classic rock album released in 1971 by RCA Records. As you can see, this is a second-hand copy. This was sent to me by David Walsh. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. David, very kind of you, as this is a magnificent album. I really enjoyed listening to this when I first got it, but as well, it kind of slipped through the cracks of my memory. I wasn't listening to it as much. I started listening to a lot more music, and eventually, a year on from getting it, I kind of rediscovered it recently and started listening back to it. Obviously, this is standard black vinyl. Really, really cool art all over this as well. There's ads on the record for different David Bowie albums, which I think is really, really awesome as well. But I rediscovered this recently and I started listening to it and I realised how much of an amazing album this truly is. And I actually have a new favourite song since discovering it first. And kind of my opinions have changed on a couple of songs. I know I touched on some of them, mentioning them in my Changes One Bowie album review. That will be linked down below and there will be a link at the end of the video to check that out. So that's a really cool album as well. Obviously that's nearly like a greatest hits for David Bowie, but some of the tracks on this record feature on it, obviously with the first track Changes, which we'll get into in a sec. But just before we get into the tracks, I absolutely love the artwork of this album. Really, really cool, really, really iconic, captures something beautiful. On the back here, I think the photography is really, really cool. Photography by Brian Ward. So I think that's really awesome, and as well the style that it wrote all the track list. It's kind of reminiscent of Beggar's Banquet by the Rolling Stones. So, getting into the album, I'm going to start off with the track Changes. And I love how authentic this song kind of sounds and feels as well. It feels like this was created just David sitting at the piano kind of tinkering away, and then it builds up to this massive, obviously, masterpiece that we all know and love. This was featured as a single with the B-side Andy Warhol, which is on side B, which we'll get to in a sec. It's much more eerie and very different in comparison to Changes. It's quite odd and it's quite experimental. I also love the kind of thick snare drums, these subtle strings. The warmth of the strings on this song is really, really cool, and I like that sound as well. The intense kind of the feeling in the song, and Bowie's just intensity towards the song, the way he's singing it, the way you can hear he feels throughout it. The lyricism's really good on this track as well, the way it's all worked out, all the vocals. So then moving on from Changes, you have Oh You Pretty Things, and I mentioned at the start of the video I have a new favourite track, and this is Oh You Pretty Things. I love how bright the piano sounds on this song, but also on the album, and how the song transitions from a raw piano song to a powerful chorus, and this really, really anthemic chorus, really, really cool. Obviously your typical, not back then but now cliche, stomp, clap, stomp, stomp, clap kind of sound, and I love the deep vocals on the chorus that gives it this thick range of kind of this really thick range of sound. There's a vastness to it, and how punchy the bass sounds on this song as well, which really kicks in towards the chorus. So as well, this adds to this kind of anthemic feel, which is really, really awesome, and I quite like on Oh You Pretty Things. Then after that, you have 8-line Poem, and I love the transition in this song from Oh You Pretty Things to Life on Mars. It's a bit undecipherable where the song starts and where it stops on the album regarding Oh You Pretty Things, because it kind of blends into 8-line Poem, obviously on streaming, which if you want to stream Hunky Dory, all the links will be down below. It's very, very different. And the kind of cool silky guitar that's in the song is really cool, and the phaser on the piano really adds this spacious kind of strange feel. 8-line Poem does feel like very much a pausing moment, a reflective moment on the record, which I think is really, really interesting. It demands a lot more attention than Changes and Oh You Pretty Things. Now, back then it would have kind of flowed into the album, but now we've heard Changes a lot, Oh You Pretty Things. 8-line Poem's much more of a deep cut. It's it demands more respect and just to listen out for different things. So that's really, really interesting, and I love 8-line poem for that reason. Then you have the song Life on Mars, which is when I'm doing these reviews, usually when I'm saying the track, the song will kind of play in my head. And actually, the whole time any of these songs, Life on Mars has been kind of in my head, stuck in my head. It's an earworm. It's very, very good. And Life on Mars is this powerful, really amazing song. David's melancholic vocals throughout the chorus is undeniably sad, really heart-wrenching. And it goes from a melancholic and sad tone to this really powerful chorus, really lots of brass, strings, very fast strings, kind of cool, nearly string fills. It's very, very interesting, and I love that. And a great sound, and the double-tracked vocals are amazing. Obviously, David has done this before on this album, which is really, really awesome. So I love the way he double tracks his vocals. It's really, really cool. And he carries on to do that on a lot of tracks for the rest of his career. So I think it's really, really cool. Next, I'm going to be talking about a very special track, Kooks. And Kooks, this is a beautifully playful song with really a really amazing story. Remember, David at this time, he's become a father. And this kind of like about Kooks that even the lyrics is really beautiful. It's just nearly about be with us, stick with us to their child, which is quite beautiful and sad and also amazing. Like, not sad as in it's kind of just really emotional. It's very deep on the album, but in comparison to the next track, it's not as deep. We'll get into Quicksand in a sec. But there's some cool guitar that makes the song have more of that swing as well with the drums. There's a guitar there, and that gives a bit of a swing to the track. So that's really, really cool, and that's what adds to this playful tone, the kind of bright piano that sparkles throughout the song that makes things perfect. And just, it's a really class song. I really, really enjoy Kooks. Now, Quicksand is a very interesting track, and it's not spoken about as much as I would like it to, because looking at it from a non-musical perspective, the writing on this song is incredible. David explores some really philosophical themes. It seems like this is resoluting the side. Quicksand is finishing up. This is actually the beginning of a resolution. And it's got this uncanny feeling of that, as well as it's interesting that it's just thinking about, I know one of the lyrics, which is incredibly dark, actually says, you don't, it's essentially saying no knowledge until death's release, so that you won't know everything before you die. And that's kind of a interesting thing to say, and it's very provocative. But the next song, Fill Your Heart, explains why there is actually an answer, and we're going to talk about that now. Fill Your Heart, Bowie just really takes to a different style of singing on this song, and the high-pitched kind of horns, which I love the horns on this album, they're incredible. And the vibe of the album, it's this new tone. Remember, now this is side B, so as well you're gonna have that where it's gonna change up a bit. I'm gonna post some pictures actually of the back of the vinyl on the website. Links to the show notes and on the website will be down below, so you can look at some of the pictures. If you're on YouTube, you can see some of this, but if you'd like better, more high quality photos, you can go to my website. The link will be down below to the show notes. As well as this, if you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Podcasts, please go to the show notes and have a look at some of the pictures. So, Fill Your Heart really is actually the resolution. You realise what David Bowie's getting to is that love is the answer. And that does explain everything. That is the knowledge, which is quite incredible. And then you have Andy Warhol. This is one of the weirdest tracks on the album. And I'm not saying that in a funny way. This is freaky, this song. This is weird. It starts off with kind of a phone call. These weird dialing sounds. And you've got, it's either David doing a funny impression of Andy Warhol or somebody doing an impression, or it is Andy Warhol. I don't really know. But it's just a funny sounding voice that's meant to be impersonating Andy Warhol, of a guy going, yeah, hole, it's Warhol, like holes. And it's just this random monologue on explaining his name for like 30 seconds, and then it gets into this bright kind of double tracked acoustic guitar and you really get into it. And the sudden clapping at the end though seems forced. There's this part where it's like the guitar's all smoothed out. You can just see the producers going, that was perfect. And then I think David must have gone, do you know what's a good idea? We should just have some clapping at the end. And it sounds like somebody went up to the mic, went 3 times, tracked them all, put them all against each other, mixed them up a bit so it sounded like just incoherent clapping noises, and it's just really weird. And it stops like, that's it. There's just like feedback then for like 2 seconds and then the song's gone. Really strange. Sounds really false. Now, the thing is, it's quite provocative. Why was the clapping there? What does it mean? Why is it so fast? Who's clapping? Why are they clapping? So, that is David. He does want to provoke thoughts. He wants you to think while listening to the album. So, I guess that could be just or some red herring, or there could be some meaning to it. If you know, again, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, there are comments. Put one down. I really appreciate all of them, especially if it's just some facts or what you think about the album. Very much appreciate it. So if you're a normal listener, put it down below. Then you have Song for Bob Dylan. And this is a strange song that sounds different to the rest of the record. And it's not that it's out of place exactly. It just is strange. It's weird. Song for Bob Dylan is a weird song. It's good, like it's really good, but I'm just wondering, why is this ode to Warhol and then Dylan beside each other? I find it quite strange. This is where we get to what I don't like about Hunky Dory, and it's only one thing, and I'm gonna explain it now as best as I can. If you imagine the Hunky Dory novel, it feels like it's chapter 1. If there's 10 chapters, let's say, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have like 9, 7, 8, 6, 10. It's 7, like, if I said 7 already, I'm just trying to make a point, is that the chapters on the second side are all over the place. I know there's not 10 songs on the record, there's 11, but it's all over the place, it's crazy. That's the storyline though, and at the end of the day, that's David Bowie. He's making a weird story, you've got to find it out for yourself. Maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm lazy, maybe I didn't learn the story right, maybe I wasn't learning while I was listening. Maybe I'm ignorant to it. If you have any idea what David was trying to get at on this entire album, or any thoughts on some of the tracks, again, the comments are there. But moving on from that, you then have Queen Bitch. Yeah, I know, I said it. I'm sorry. Won't say it again. It's in context, guys. And this feels like it's inspired by the Velvet Underground. If it wasn't, I would be quite surprised, because it feels like this is the Velvet Underground. And the fact that it mentions Andy Warhol earlier in the album, if David didn't know about the Velvet Underground mentioning Andy Warhol, that's a bit weird. That's a bit strange. There has to be some link. I'm very curious if you have any if you've seen any archival footage or old interviews with David and he mentions anything. That'd be cool to see. But no, it just sounds really like the Velvet Underground and this really powerful guitar riff that really drives the song. Really, really cool. And gives it this intense feel as well. It's very, very intense, this song. Really good though. Now, I'm not saying it like, oh, it's the Velvet Underground. They're copying the Velvet Underground. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I like it. It sounds like the Velvet Underground. They're one of the coolest bands ever. By the way, I've actually done a review on the Velvet Underground and Nico. So, quick plug. The link will be down below. Please check it out. Like, share, subscribe. You know what all the buttons do. So please help and support the channel. Dearly appreciated. So moving on from that, quick plug. The Bewley Brothers. What was this? Not in a bad way at all. Because I don't want to go and this was muck. No, this was a masterpiece. But very strange. Again, this felt like the one thing that I don't like about Hunky Dory, as I was saying, it's kind of like the mixed up chapters. But this song has that kind of vibe, except it's perfect. It's like this montage of the album in a split second. It's beautiful. It's very good. It's a perfect finish for the record. I don't think that you could have done it any better than that. It was very, very good. So looking at the overall picture of David Bowie's Hunky Dory, the tone, really, really cool. Love the tone of this record. Love the different sounds that he was getting at. The vocals, very, very good. Sometimes you felt like he was straining himself. He was really pushing. And sometimes that sounded cool and added texture. Other times that felt a bit that he was just straining his voice naturally. Now, that doesn't take too much away from the album. The lyrics were good, a bit all over the place, like confusing the storyline. Again, like, I'm not saying, oh, David Bowie, his lyricism, yeah, it's creative, but it's not put down right. I'm just think it's kind of not very direct in a way. So that's not a critique or anything. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing out that that's really how I feel about the lyrics. It's kind of hard to understand. The art, perfect. Love this artwork. I mean, there's nothing more to say than that. Like, if you're on Spotify, look at the thumbnail for the episode, and you'll see this beautiful album art. Amazing. Just not only it's an amazing photo and it captures, but just the different colours of it, how bright it is. It's really evocative, amazing. The concept of this record, very good as well. This kind of Hunky Dory kind of feel of... Hunky Dory to me is kind of crazy bananas all over the place, and that's exactly what this is in a good way. So, overall, Hunky Dory. This is a strange record. Very hard to get into if you're new to David Bowie. Obviously, I listened to Black Star, which the first time I listened to it, with the right context, knowing this was released before David Bowie passed away, disturbed me. But after listening to it a couple of times, it's now one of my favourite and what I think is one of the best records of all time. If you haven't listened to Black Star, you need to. Black Star by David Bowie is one of the best records of all time. It's insane. So check that out. And honestly, Hunky Dory is so cool. It explores so many different topics, so many different, obviously, like, really important time for David. New child. It's so important for him. This period of time, this was peak David for some people. This was low David for some people. People really enjoyed his music. This is when he was starting to build up that fan base, become more creative, become more Bowie. So overall, I'm rating this album 4 out of 5 stars. An incredible record, and it deserves a lot of recognition. So if you haven't listened to it before, links to David Bowie's artist profiles all down below. I've sorted it for you. So before we go, please don't click off just yet. I have one thing to say to you guys, is that for those who have subscribed, thank you so much. You are very supportive. If you watch my videos all the time, because there's a lot of people that do and they never subscribe, please do. If you like the video, show me that you like the video. Click the like button. It helps so much. Share it, please, with somebody who you think will enjoy it. And comment, what do you think? Do you think I was completely wrong about something? Or do you think that you couldn't agree more? Let me know, guys. And thank you so much for listening to my review. Bye.